Hi Year 9 and welcome to your last lesson on media studies. So today you've got me. I know that you've had Mr. Lakins for the last 4 lessons. Myself and Mr. Lakins both teach media studies, so I'm going to do this final lesson for you. It's on narrative theories, so you need to make sure that you've got your fact book in front of you, but you've also got a piece of paper and a pencil just to make notes. And also, can you make sure that you have these notes and you keep them in a safe place, because it will be really handy when we get back to school that you can put them in your media folder that we've got for you all, so that you can use them to revise and look back through to aid your understanding, which will be really good. So let's get cracking then. Narrative theories. Okay, so you're probably sitting wondering what I mean by narrative, so we're going to go through this first then. So in media studies, it's really important to tell the difference between narrative and story. Now, we all know the concept of a story. We know that there's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end, and there's this sequence of events, and it's known as the plot. Okay, but with a narrative, it's the way that these events are put together and how they're presented to an audience, which is what we're concerned with, and this is what we're going to learn today. Okay, so when analysing a narrative, we analyse the construction of the story. We don't look at the story itself. So by this I mean how the story is told, how events are ordered, which characters are shown to be the most important. Okay, we're looking at the narrative. So when we think about this, all media texts, regardless of what they are, okay, whether they're a 6-hour TV miniseries, a 1-paragraph newspaper story, a glossy magazine photo, a film poster, an advertisement, okay, all media texts have this narrative. When we look at narrative then, we look at a theorist, and his name is Todorov. Okay, and his theory basically states that most stories or plot lines follow the same pattern or path. He believes they're called a linear narrative. Okay, the story moves chronologically and everything happens in the right order. So on your screen you'll see that there's this little diagram here, and he believes that there's 5 steps in this pattern. Step 1 is the equilibrium. Step 2 is something called disruption. Step 3 is recognition, step 4 resolution, and then you've got step 5, which is new equilibrium. It might be worth drawing this little diagram, okay, on your piece of paper to help you remember and understand. Now we're going to go through each stage then. So stage 1, this equilibrium, this is the first part of the story. Okay, this is where everything's happy, everything's calm, everybody's content, there's no conflict. Okay, so this is called your equilibrium. Then we move on to the second stage, which is disruption. So this is where there will be something that happens that disrupts the happiness. Okay, something will disrupt the story, and ultimately at this point it's the job of the hero to go and fix it. Then we move on to recognition, and this is part of the plot when everybody else realises that there's a problem, and ultimately there's chaos. And then we move on to resolution. This is when the problems, the disruption, whatever it is, has been resolved. And once that happens, we then move on to new equilibrium, and this is the final part where the problem's resolved and normality can resume again. There's the state of balance like there was in the beginning. So what I would like you to do then, you don't have to do that today, but at some point before we come back to school, is watch a film or think back to a film that you have watched and try to explain the 5 stages of this theory. Okay, so if I'm thinking about Shrek, for example, your equilibrium at the beginning, he lives in this swamp. Okay, he's got no worries, got no friends, but he's happy, he's content. Then the disruption happens and the fairy tale creatures appear because they've been kicked out by the Lord. And then actually when we move to the end of the story, the new equilibrium, okay, he, after going on the quest and saving Fiona from the dragon, they actually fall in love and get married, and there's part of this new equilibrium at the end. I know that I've missed out a couple of stages there, but what I want you to do is something similar. Think back to a film or watch a film, and as you're watching, attempt to identify those 5 stages for me. But one thing that I do want us to think about, although that was the linear narrative, some media producers do adopt a different approach, and this is called the non-linear narrative. And this is when, okay, it might begin partway through a story or even at the end, okay, and then you've got these flashbacks or these flash forwards that might be used to help structure the narrative. So when we think about this, why do media producers do this? Because they like to hold back the information from the audience. They like to create this intrigue and this suspense. And then when we think about the type of media products that do this, you've got crime dramas and horror films. They often start with a murder at the very beginning, okay, or something that's happened and a mystery that needs solving, and then you kind of work backwards to solve that mystery or to solve the murder. And it's the same with horror films as well, predominantly. Okay, then we move on to another theory, which is the Enigma Code. Now, the Enigma Code is simply a theory that suggests a text, so whether that's TV, film, posters, this text portrays a mystery to draw an audience in. And as a result of this, the audience then poses questions and becomes really intrigued in the media text. So it engages them and actively encourages them to take part in trying to solve the puzzles in this narrative. So you could think the fact that a body is discovered at the beginning of a TV detective drama, the killer's identity therefore is this enigma, okay, it's a mystery. We as consumers watch because we want to find out who the killer is, and therefore we become hooked. And this is part of the Enigma Code. So on the screen just here then, I have Spectre, a film poster. Now we will be looking in loads more detail at this film poster. We'll be analysing this as part of one of your topics in year 10. But what I want you to do is just look at that film poster then and tell me what enigmas you can identify. Now, it's important to remember that film posters use enigmas because they want to hook the audience in. They then want you to look out for these trailers, and ultimately they want you to go and watch the film. So when we look at Spectre, this film poster, pause the lesson and have a think about what enigmas you can see. Now hopefully, if you pause and you're now back, you'll see or you'll ask these questions. First of all, why is he holding a gun? Who is he trying to protect, or who is he intending to shoot? And ultimately you'll want to watch the film to find out. Okay, Spectre means ghost or spirit, if you didn't know that. Okay, and this also adds to the mystery. It connotes that maybe there's a death or dying, and this is all part of the narrative. You'll also be thinking about the skeleton in the background behind Bond, okay, and how that skeleton actually links into him. Moving forward then, is this skeleton the antagonist? Okay, is he the villain of the story? Why is he actually lurking in the shadows? Now, schools are often associated with death, so maybe there's this assumption that he's the villain, like I've said in the story. And then he's also concealed. So the concealed identity, this concealed disguise, also adds an element of fear and mystery. And these are the conventional elements of the spy genre, and I know that you've been through conventions in previous lessons. Okay, so this is like the spy genre, there's this concealed identity. And lastly, relating to that, who is actually in the skeleton costume? So these are the enigmas, the questions that we as the audience want answering. And in order to have those questions answered, we need to go out and watch the film. Okay, moving on. What is a possible link between these characters? So you've got Luke Skywalker, Batman and Woody. Have a think, what is the link between them? Hopefully you will be telling me that they are heroes, okay? They are the protagonist, which moves us into this last theorist. We have Prop then. Now, he's a theorist who can appear at both GCSE and A-level. He's one that's really important that you understand, so make notes as we go through this section, Year 9. Prop was a Russian scholar who analysed the basic plot components of Russian folktale, and he identified these narrative elements. So he concluded that there are typical character types that are included in any narrative. He said that there was the hero, we all know what a hero is, the villain. You've got the princess, the damsel in distress if you like. You've got the dispatcher, okay, somebody who sends the hero on their quest. You've got the helper, which is the sidekick character. The donor, which helps the hero on their quest. The donor aids the hero, gives them something. You've got the father of the princess. And then you've got this false hero, who's normally the bad guy, the villain. Now, this theory, you should try to use this when looking at any characters in a narrative, and you can link in, it isn't just about film or TV, you can link this into any media text. So you have a print advert in front of you, it's Quality Street. We're not going to look in too much detail at this, but because we're going to go on to look at this in more detail throughout the course. But this is from Component 1, Section 8, your Advertising and Marketing section. Thinking about Prop's character types, I want you to now look at this print advert and try to identify any of the character types that you can see. So have a little look, pause the lesson. What character types can you see? What you should have the male in the middle. Okay, he can be seen as the hero. He's the one with the sweets, and he's that one with the women, the damsel in distress, okay, either side of him. You could say that he has this decision, okay, which female, but also which chocolate. So quite clearly you can see that he is the hero, and the two women there are the princesses, so the damsels in distress. What I would like you to do then for the final part of the lesson, just so I am fully confident that you understand Prop's character types, is you'll see the character types on the left hand side of your screen. You've got the attributes and then you've got the actions as well. I've done the first one for you, so I've picked hero, and I have said that the attributes of a hero are the fact that they're brave, they're good, and they're assumed to be male. The actions of a hero are the fact that the hero achieves the quest, the hero resolves the narrative, resolves the conflict, he or she overcomes obstacles and drives the narrative forward. So what I'd like you to do, you can either copy out the grid, handwrite it or do it on a computer, or you can simply just take the hero and then write down the attributes and actions next to, and then so on for each character. But I'd like you to have a go at that and keep it somewhere safe for when we're back in school. So it's probably best to pause the screen so that it doesn't move forward. So hopefully then Year 9, we have covered these key facts and you're starting to understand. So you're starting to understand the fact that narrative is the way events are put together and presented to an audience. It's how the story's told. You're starting to understand Todorow's narrative theory and the 5 steps. You know who Prop now is. Okay, and you are starting to become familiar with the 8 character types. As I say, if you need to go back to make more notes, feel free to do that. But that is all from me. Hope you've enjoyed your 5 weeks of media. Hope you have a lovely summer as well, actually. And we will hopefully see you back at college very soon. Take care, Year 9.